Good morning, everyone. Hope you're doing well today. Let's see here. As Ashley said, my name is Kevin Bosch. I'm a solutions engineer based out of Nashville, Tennessee. And today I want to talk about the factory design utilities and specifically the factory assets. Just kind of take a look at how those assets are created, how we can get access to those, how we can share those. You should be able to hear me. I hope that you can hear me fine. If not, please add to the chat or the questions, and we'll get you taken care of. I am on my own today. Sometimes we have a person in the background answering questions, but I will take a look at the questions panel when we're done, and do the best that I can to answer those questions for you. So I'm not going to bore you with a terribly long PowerPoint. We're going to do mostly demo, but it is nice to get some of the settings and some of the overview concepts put out through the PowerPoint. So we'll take a look at that. You know, those factory design utilities, they are based for Inventor, AutoCAD, and Navisworks. They are a separate download. If you're looking for those, you can go into your Autodesk account. This year, and I believe a little bit last year, were those product design collections. If you expand your list out, you'll see the factory design utilities. It is one download for the three separate installations. It's one download and one installation actually for the three separate add-ins. As you go through and you see updates that come in, those updates will be split out based on Inventor and AutoCAD and Navisworks. And as you get that installed, you'll see a new factory ribbon. In this case, we're looking at the factory ribbon in AutoCAD, or I'm sorry, in Inventor. Initially, that startup ribbon will give you that top view, and then as you open files, of course, it'll expand out to give you access to some of the other tools. When we look in AutoCAD, some key things to remember. It does require that AutoCAD Mechanical is installed. If you have just base AutoCAD installed, you won't see that factory ribbon. So you will have to install AutoCAD Mechanical. You can access the core AutoCAD product or the base AutoCAD product typically from your start menu and all programs, and then go into Autodesk and AutoCAD Mechanical folder, and you'll see a shortcut there for AutoCAD based on your release, and then it'll say English or whatever language you have, and the AutoCAD Mechanical. Let's see here. The browser that we're going to be getting into and where we look at our factory assets, it's pretty much identical between AutoCAD and Inventor. You'll have access to the same icons, to the same view, to even the same properties between the two software. And as you can see in the lower shot there's going to be access in this case from AutoCAD directly to Inventor or Navisworks. And when you're in one of the other pieces of software, there'll be access as well to back to AutoCAD. And let's see. Some options that you'll want to look at as you're setting up your factory designs. Number one, your Inventor project file. If you create a library folder, as we see here, this can be used to author or publish your custom assets, and we'll talk about those here in just a little bit. We do have some factory options, and I'll show you how to get to that. And primarily, these are going to be for cloud assets or assets that we download from Autodesk. And where are those going to be located? And that can be a local path, it can be a network path, it can be your library path, whatever you prefer. And then also some options inside of AutoCAD itself. Once again, that cloud path um, that we see here on the left side. And then on the right side, we can set our Inventor project path so that we've got access to any settings within that Inventor project. Additionally, there is support for Autodesk Vault. It does require some specific settings within the Vault server to be used for factory. Certainly, if you have Vault, or if you're thinking about Vault, we can help you set those things up. Let's see. And I wanted to take just a minute to go over the tools within the asset browser. And these two screenshots happen to be looking at the browser from Inventor. Our system assets. These are the default assets, and they're installed on every user's machine with the installation process. They only consume about 30-35 megs of disk space, and they contain some Inventor models, AutoCAD related files, and Navis related files, as well as some property XML files. There is not a lot that's loaded up. These are kind of the base assets, if you will. We have access to a user assets folder, and these are user authored assets. The default is at the user documents folder. We can create assets, and they can go directly in there, and then they can be copied out to, or even created in, those project library folders that we were just talking about. So we'll have options to adjust where those user assets are stored and how we access those. And then once again, same thing with cloud assets. We have a default setting for those as well. That's typically based on where the project is located, but we can set that to a library folder if we need to. At the top of that bar, we see some icons and fields here, and I just wanted to run through those pretty quickly. That very top bar is just a search bar. So if we know a portion of the asset name, we can run through that search, and it will search the active folder, whether that's system assets or user assets. We have access to go up a folder there, the very first icon, as well as change whether we see icons or a list, and then how those are sorted. We can adjust that. And we've got some tool tips. We also have the ability to refresh our asset browser. If somebody adds an asset or a folder, something to that effect in, we can refresh that. And then with 2019, they've given us access to bring in groups of assets. So basically, if you have a work cell or a smaller area that was created and you want to bring it in almost as a sub-assembly, if you will, to your full factory design, you can select that icon and bring those in. And then the icon on the far right is access to the Autodesk Cloud assets. So we can easily get to those. We can refresh those. Some nice settings there. And I told you I'd keep it short, so let's see what this actually looks like in Inventor itself. We'll start there. First thing I wanted to do is show you the projects box. So you've got your Inventor project, and the biggest thing with regard to factory is to set up just a library. Just set that folder up. You can call that whatever you like, and it has its own path. We'll go ahead and edit that path just a minute. Actually, I'm sorry, it won't even let me because I'm read only. But that's within the project path. And I'm going to select done on that folder, and let's take a look at the asset browser. So sure enough, there's that folder we were talking about. That is the library path. Let's take a look first at this factory tab. Once again, when we have a layout started, we will see these additional tools here. Those options that I was talking about, we've got factory options here, and we can get to the different settings. Primarily, these are going to be your default templates, and you can adjust those to your company templates if you want. And then this cloud path that I was talking about is right here, so we can browse out and change that if we need to. I wanted to go in and look at some of the system assets first. They are divided out into some overall categories, if you will. And then as we dig into these, there are just a number of possibilities. You can see further division here as to the types that are coming out. And you'll see some different options. Notice these here that have the little circle on them. Those are actually cloud assets. And if I wanted to get access to that, I can just right click and download that asset. Will come from the cloud. It is very quick. So I can do that right here, and we can see that that's already done. So that's already loaded for us. Some of the assets, as you see here, are straight out of the installation itself, and we can come in and do some different things with these. As we bring these in, if you guys have played with these just a little bit, when you're on the Inventor side, you can certainly come in and begin to place your assets. If you have structure placed in here, if you have building structure drawn, you can certainly use the utilities to constrain those assets relative to that structure if you need to. Those constraints work like any assembly constraints that you've done. When you initially place an asset, you have the ability to rotate that asset. You can translate that asset if you need to. And if created properly, they should fall directly on the floor. One of the things that I'd like you guys to notice is how my triad is set up. When we look at this floor, XY is laying down. And that is really, really key when we come to making our own assets. As we get in, oftentimes we think, oh, I want this to, I want to sketch on my flat plane here, my horizontal plane, so that it will come in correctly. We actually need to begin our sketches on XY. So we'll take a look at that here in just a minute. This particular asset, I'm going to go ahead and place that, and notice that automatically it will let me bring in another one. And with these connectors, and we'll look at how those are created here in just a little bit, it just lets me place that and stack those up. And then if I want to bring in something else, I can just simply find that object, do a left click, and drag it into the space. And as I rotate around or get those connectors close, it will allow me to place those in there and make changes. Some things about your system assets, a couple of different things that you'll want to know. A lot of them will have properties that you can edit, things like width. And if I edit just the one, because it's got connections all the way through, we'll see if that won't update for us. Well, let's bring Inventor back up. There we go. It actually did update. We'll select that again. There we go. And I'll bring that back down. See if we can't see that. There we go. Makes a nice little change for us. Some of the assets that we bring in will have specific properties or variants assigned to them. Let's see here. See if I've got a couple in this. And in this case, it's almost like an iPart, if you will. It wants me to go ahead and download that, so we'll let that come in. And before I drag that in, if I want to, I can assign a given variant. We notice that we can see a size. Now I won't have access to change that particular table other than by those variants. Let's see here if we place that, and we'll take a look at those properties. We can see that I've got those particular 3 options. So it does tie me down in that sense, whereas the others are kind of custom. We can adjust length and height and so on and so forth. So keep in mind that some of the assets that we get into will have those. And oftentimes when an asset does have a variant, you'll see a number here off to the top left of the icon, so that you know that there are some different settings within that. Let's see here. As we go in this case, I don't have any user cloud assets at this point. If I want to, as I produce my own assets, they can be assigned to that. We'll look at some additional system assets just so we have an idea of all of the different things that we can get into. You can see that most of these are ready to be downloaded from the cloud. And as you do those, you'll have access to those even for other uses. Or it's, like I said, the download is pretty quick, so nothing too terribly complicated. As you get in and you're working with your designs, especially if you go through some of the tutorials that are provided for factory, you'll learn about the asset chains. And oftentimes when you see this small icon, for instance, on this guardrail, that's an asset chain. So we can actually lay that out based on a sketch line or a polyline from AutoCAD, and it will follow that full length of the line and build itself based on that shape. And that makes things kind of nice. It makes it a little bit easier to place those in. We'll go up just a little bit, and again, you can see we have a number of types of conveyors. We've got roller tables. I believe there are even some air conveyors here. You can see those, buckets, and just literally dozens, if not hundreds, of options that we can get to just through our factory design. These are not things that I created. These are things that we're given access to just through the installed process. When it comes to getting in and creating our own assets, there's a number of different ways we can do this. I like to do it through Inventor. I'm quicker through Inventor, but you can do this through AutoCAD as well if you're not as concerned about the 3D side. Fortunately, when we create assets, we can model as parts, we can model as assemblies, we can import existing models if we want to. All of these are possibilities. So if you've got something that's that you've already done, you can easily bring that in. And some of the things that you'll want to consider when you do this, again, how is that oriented? How is that created? Keep in mind, like I said, draw on the XY plane so that it will relate to the floor correctly. And you can do this really in any way that you prefer. Now, as you do this, if there are things that you want to adjust, for instance, I'm going to create a little work table here, and if I want to be able to change that through my asset, I want to name those parameters. So we'll do, let's see, table length equals, let's say, 48. And I'll tab over and get table width, and we'll say 24. Oh, how about equals 24? And depending on how you want to do this, you can make some adjustments. You can use patterns. You can sketch however you want to. Let's say 2 by 2. And let me change that back to not construction. There we go. And we'll start another one of those. And over here as well. Just some quick table legs that we're going to put in. And I like to give them a little bit of an offset here. There we go. Started with those table legs, obviously, to be able to put the top of the table on, or to put those directly on the floor. So we might want to do something like leg height equals, and let's say 29 inches. We'll select those. You can obviously, like building any part, you can give materials if you want to, however you want to do that. And let's see, we'll put that in. Let's look at our parameters here. And I think I needed table length, not width. There we go. We'll finish that and obviously give that just a little bit of thickness there. There we go. So anything that you would want to adjust, and obviously I need to take that hole out of there, so let's edit that feature and grab our profile. There we go. Anything that you might want to adjust, you'll want to add those in. Once you've got your model built, then you'll go into the asset builder itself. In this case, the landing surface is exactly what we wanted, so we'll go ahead and select that. And you'll find that as you create your assets and as you work with that, yes, you can draw on other panels. You got to be really careful more when it comes to the connectors, because you can define this as the landing surface, but then those connectors need to be in the right direction as well. So you can set your insertion point wherever you'd like to. We'll go ahead and click OK on that one, and you can see that the parameters are going to come in here, and these will all be key for us as we get used to as we work with the properties. We can add connectors, and there's a number of ways to add connectors. You can grab certainly just a middle location, and once again, you want to pay attention to the X direction, and more so in this case, notice the Z direction. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight that and set that so that my Z direction is going to be in the upright location. And we'll go ahead and click OK on that. And I can add in as many connectors as I like. once again, pay attention to the orientation of those connectors as we place those in. That will become key as we go place this table. And we'll select OK. And then even if I wanted to, I'll just put one on this this face out here and make sure that Z is in the appropriate direction here. So once this is all done, if I wanted to, I could create those variants that we talked about, or I can just let it be on the different properties or different parameters that we've created here. We'll have access to adjust those. And then if I wanted to, I can come in and add my eye properties for the models for the things that I want to see in a bill of material. So nothing terribly complicated by this. I'll go ahead and select OK. And let's go ahead and hit the publish asset. And of course, it wants me to save this. So I'm going to look in, where do I want this to go? I want it to go in my custom asset library. And we're going to go ahead and call this work table. And I'm betting there's probably a work table already in existence in the assets, but that's okay. We'll go ahead and save this. And it's not editable, that's okay. We're going to say yes for now. The nice thing about that is when we go place those, we'll still be able, because it will be a unique file, we'll still be able to change those sizes. So just some different settings when you come to the publish side. Again, what's the asset name? What type of asset is it? There's standard assets, assets that go in a pit, so below the floor, or go considerably above the floor in a platform. What kind of a view do we want if we wanted to adjust that? Do we want it to go into the user assets or the custom assets? We get to decide that. We can also say, you know what, I want this to go to the cloud. So we can set it to a cloud site. Or if we have that vault configuration done, we can set it to go there. If you have a considerably large model, was recently working with a group that that did their own roller tables, for instance, and they were very, very large models, several hundred pieces, and combined it would go into several thousand. So we have the ability, when you have those, to actually simplify. And these simplify settings are much like our derive settings or our shrink wrap settings. There are some that are just automatically set, and we can go in and look at some of those options. We don't really have access to change those. We can just look at the way things are built. I'm going to go ahead and cancel that. We've got another option here, different settings and how this would be. And then we do have a few customs where we can go in, and just as we've worked with the derived components or the shrink wrap components, we can go in and decide what we want to include, exclude, how we want to adjust size, cover holes, so on and so forth. So when you're doing your assets, especially if they're complicated systems, complicated machines, it is best for the factory side to go ahead and simplify those in such a manner that you can communicate the information without having any performance degradation on the systems themselves. So simplify them as much as possible. Just keep that in mind. Notice that this process, this publish process, will automatically generate a Navisworks model. So if we go into Navisworks, we're able to add our assets from there as well, in much the same manner as I'm doing here. And also, it will publish a 2D representation. So when we take this over to AutoCAD, we're going to see that flat 2D block and be able to have that located per our 3D design, or even adjust that location and then update the 3D design. So we have all of these options here. I'll go ahead and select OK. And let's see. Let me go backwards here. I don't want to get rid of the simplification there. See if that will let us get things set. Give this a minute to publish. While that's doing its thing, I'll take a look at the questions panel here. Doesn't look like there's too many questions at this point. Hopefully I'm making sense. Let's see. Oh, and it was terminated. Let's try that one again. Let's see. Yes, and I believe it was our simplify settings. Let's see, we've got those turned off. And it's not digging it, probably because of that that work table setting. Let's see if we've got a couple that I've already done. I'll finish that builder. And let's see, I have a feeling because of the name, it's not liking what I've done. Let's see if we can save this as a different file name. Let's try that. Let's see here. And we'll save this. It's already got my settings for my connector, my landing surface, and let's see if it will behave. And nope, something that I've got wrong. I apologize, folks. Wondering if we'll try this. Going to user assets. Okay, just misbehaving on me. Coming back into our factory design. Let's see here, and into our layout. Typically, we would see those, and we would see those assets published in our asset folder, and would have access to those. Something that I've done recently. Hard to say. We had some updates that came through, and that could have very well caused me some issues. But as you can see, we can get access to those, and hopefully you won't have the troubles that I'm having this morning. So, any questions at this point? Let's see here. Let's come back to our wonderful slide. Anything that you're wondering about? Not seeing any at this point. And nothing in the chat. Hopefully I've given you the information that you were looking for this morning. If you want to learn more about Factory, if you haven't gotten into it at all, there are some nice tutorials that you can get to. We've got you can get to the Factory help. Certainly some options on YouTube and Facebook, as well as a Factory discussion forum. So those will give you some good information. We do provide custom classes for Factory. So if you'd like to get into those, please let us know. We will gladly get you that information. If there are no further questions, Ashley, I think I'm done.
Okay, well, thanks, Kevin. This will conclude our broadcast. If you think of additional questions later, you could simply reply to the confirmation or reminder email that you received from GoToWebinar, and we can get those to Kevin or your rep to get those questions answered. Once again, if you could take a few moments to fill out the short survey, we would appreciate it. It will just pop up as we close down the session today. And thanks for attending the webcast, and have a great day, everybody.